Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Ryan O'Neill.
Alfred University political science professor emeritus, Dr. Robert Heineman. The impeachment inquiry.
Yes.
I think a lot of people think that there's an impeachment going on, and I think a lot of people think impeachment means removal.
Well, those are good points. I think you're absolutely right. The press is treating it as though impeachment is going on right now, and this is simply an inquiry, and it's a totally disorganized inquiry as far as I can tell, in the sense that this committee's looking at this, and this committee's looking at that, and Adam Schiff's up there yelling and screaming about this, and I mean, I don't know, maybe Pelosi's view is, hey, let it just kind of float around here, and maybe this will slow things down. I think the whole image I get out of this is that it's pretty much out of control. But it is leading to some really kind of serious ramifications, in the sense that they obviously they won the transcript of President Trump's discussion with Zelensky, the president of the Ukraine, which they got, but he didn't have to give that to them.
Trump.
He could easily. I'm sorry.
Trump did not have to release it.
No, he could have claimed executive privilege there.
I know you don't like him, but Senator Rand Paul's raised some very important points about this whole idea of snooping in on president phone calls and snitching on president phone calls when nothing serious happened.
Yes,
nothing really serious was wrong with the conversation.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't. I mean, this whole situation today is surreal in the sense that I can't see anything here that Trump has done wrong at all. And again, we go back and point out that Mueller looked at this for 2 years and spent $25 million, included this whole Russian collusion thing was a fabrication. And then we've got a number of other things. And now we got this phone call to the Ukraine. And obviously in the last few days, President Trump has said, well, I think I'll call China and have them investigate Biden as well. And I think what Trump is saying, hey, you want it? I'll just give it right back to you.
Yeah.
But the broader point here is, and I don't know if Rand Paul is making this point or not, but the broader point is this has... Schiff and some of these other congressmen are asking for transcripts from phone calls to Putin and other international leaders, and you just can't do that. I mean, you just can't be saying, well, no, we want to hear what the president had to say to this person or that person. First of all, it stymies any kind of candid interaction between the president and leaders in other parts of the world. They're going to be very careful what they say. I mean, the courts simply will not uphold that. You got no right to that kind of information, and so I think that's a really dangerous thing of this side of this whole thing. And of course, then what people like Schiff and Nadler, some of these other obsessed types
have Watergate-itis.
Yeah, well, all right. They're absolutely bent on using this kind of, well, the president refused to release this information. Well, he has every right to do that. I mean, he is our spokesman in foreign affairs. He's our commander-in-chief. Yeah, the Congress has no right to go digging around and all this stuff. Now, the results of some of these things, Congress has every right to cast judgments. But no, this is dangerous in many ways. And I do think the American people, the latest poll I saw had Trump at one of his highest popularity levels. I don't know, popularity may be the wrong term, but the highest level of support he's had in a long, long time. People are just sick and tired of this. And I think, you want to stand back and let the Democrats pretty much destroy themselves. They're welcome to do that. The thing is, Trump, of course, is getting outrageous again in some of his claims and charges and things of that sort. And I think he's found it very frustrating because I think he thinks he's really done nothing wrong, which, as far as I can tell, he hasn't.
Can we get back to the Ukraine?
So there we are. Yeah. Well, yeah, sure.
Okay. Right. As much as I'm not a fan of her, I did a Google search before the show on Ann Coulter, and an interesting article came up. I'm not an Ann Coulter person, but this is interesting. She talked about how Washington investigators never touched the DNC, Democrat National Committee's servers. Who did? CrowdStrike. Who's CrowdStrike? A Ukrainian-backed cyber security firm. And Coulter goes on to say that's why Trump asked the Ukrainian president about CrowdStrike, the company behind a lot of excuses for spying on Trump.
Yeah.
That's interesting information.
Yeah. Well, I think if you go into one of the reasons I think they're more and more concerned about trying to bring Trump down is there's the Clintons and the Bidens and a lot of other people deeply involved in relationships here, which are some of which may actually be illegal. But I do think that this is clearly going to hurt Biden a lot. And people just shake their heads when you say, well, his son was making $600,000 a year off this pseudo company that he had no background or experience in at all.
Doc.
What?
The conservative talk show hosts go farther than you. They say Hunter Biden was thrown out of the military, and then the next day or day after gets this bazillion-dollar job from his father's influence.
Right.
And then his father denied. And then when these accusations come out, Joe Biden, I didn't know anything about my son's business. And then the pictures surface of Joe Biden golfing with Hunter Biden, his son, and Ukrainian Ukrainian business officials. It doesn't look good.
No. Clearly, this is sort of the business as usual. Here's much as we can milk this for my family, one way or another. And it's been going on for a long time. The problem, I guess, Trump has a problem with it. I don't think there's any question about that. And I think his press questions are pretty legitimate. So we'll just have to watch how this plays itself out. But it's really amazing how the press and some of these people in Congress are making this into some sort of impeachable offense. Now, again, as you point out, we're just making inquiries here. There hasn't been any. This isn't an impeachment effort per se, and to actually impeach a president, you would have to have. I would think you'd have to have hearings on that very point, and you'd have to have discussion and some debate. And I don't know how Pelosi would handle that. I don't know if it'll ever go that far. But right now we're just looking at inquiries. And again, what you're doing is taking up a huge amount of time that could be used for doing some fairly constructive things. And that's what's also very sad about this whole thing. I think the point is it's out of control.
I said the word Watergate-itis about 5 or 10 minutes ago.
You did, yes.
I think that some of the Washington Democrats have a bad case of this idea that when you get in office, you're there to put your opposition on trial and investigate them endlessly and harass them.
I know. I think it certainly has gone that way with Trump, and it went that way with Nixon as well, because Nixon, some of the things he did to the Democrats, I mean, they did some pretty nasty things to the Democrats in terms of, auditing their IRS records and things of that sort. They treated him pretty roughly, and so when they got a chance at Nixon, they really, really went after him. But in Trump's case, I think it's quite a bit different in the sense that Trump is just so personally nasty to people that they, get some of them a little too thin-skinned, I guess, or just don't want to take that kind of abuse. And so Trump just kind of keeps ratcheting it up in terms of nasty rhetoric. And I think that has a lot to do with the intensity in which they go after him.
Okay, obvious statement here, but liberals get their information from the liberal media, conservatives get their information from the conservative media. I'm kind of wondering where the middle of the road people go to get their information. You might think it was the liberal media, but a lot of that is dinosaur stuff. I think a lot of them are looking on websites, and it's not necessarily famous news agencies that they're going to anymore.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, there's a lot of bots or various kinds of. A
lot of people get their news off of Facebook. They just go through Facebook and look at all the articles that have been posted.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are doing these days.
Which
is why a lot of news agencies post stories on Facebook a lot.
I see. I have nothing to do with Facebook, so that does make us a little limited here, Brian.
Well,
after they mistreated Paul Seglio, I just can't. Be giving them support. Yes.
Well, I guess my question is the middle of the road voters, the centerists.
No, it's a good.
Those people that everybody in Washington's trying to get their vote, and some believe that the middle of the road center people are the deciding factor in a lot of elections. Question: will the middle of the road centrist types believe that Biden is a problem, or will they believe Trump is a problem, or just get disgusted with the whole thing? What do you think?
Well, I think that in terms of the moderates, and I'm not certain how many. Well, I guess quite a few people think of themselves as moderates. In terms of where they get their information, I think the reasonable thing to do is try to take a look at some liberal approaches and some conservative approaches and see if you can make some kind of balance there. But you're right, it's more and more difficult. I mean, these guys on the liberal side, some of the things they're saying are just, and, you get some of these not-so conservatives as well, and I'd throw Ann Coulter in there, frankly, in that respect as well. And a few of the others. So it's difficult, and trying to find moderate and halfway objective sources of information is increasing. Now, I suppose, if you did take a look at Facebook's, all the sites they list, you might get a reasonable survey of various opinions and approaches. And here and there, The Hill, Politico, and some of these websites I think are reasonably objective, but it's increasingly difficult in that respect.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where the people in the center, the moderates, as you say, I'm wondering where they're going to go come November 2020 when it's time to vote.
Yeah, well, I don't know, and it's a long way away. I will say this, though. I think given Trump's rhetorical style, he does manage to stay on the front page every day pretty much of the week. And he does make points that do have some effect, I think, across the moderate scheme. But the whole attempt to kind of package this in a way that it would be more attractive to moderates, I don't know. The guy just doesn't seem to have any interest in doing that. His approach, I think, is he gets the conservatives behind him, he gets them worked up, he can win. I don't know. Maybe he can.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk. Chris Collins is out of Congress. Bernie's having some health problems and other issues. Stay with us.
UR Medicine now offers minimally invasive general surgery at a hospital near you, so you can get back to the things you love sooner. UR Medicine, medicine of the highest order.
I hear ads in the radio talk about the IRS Fresh Start program. Does Cunningham Storing and Associates do that?
The Fresh Start program, also called Offer and Compromise, allows people to pay off their taxes for less than they owe, but it only works for some people. We have over a decade of success. Call us to determine if we can help you.
What about back taxes?
We help people file multiple years back tax returns. Don't hide any longer.
If you need help from Cunningham Storing and Associates, you can find us in Hornell at 91 Washington Street or on the web at hornelltax.com.
Back with Dr. Robert A. Heineman, political science professor emeritus, Alfred University.
Yes, I'm back. Yes.
Chris Collins being out of Congress. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that's a very complex situation there. And why he resigned before he pled and why he pled to start with, there are all kinds of things involved there, and I certainly don't know one way or another why all that eventuated that way. What continues to be of interest, of course, is how all this is going to play out now up in that congressional district, and it will have ramifications, I think, for the state Senate as well, and we've looked at this before. The number one question is, will Governor Cuomo call a special election? And I doubt very much he's going to call a special election before November of 2019. So if he called a special election after that, I don't know if that would make much sense either. He generally is pretty reluctant in this to call special elections. But in this particular situation, if it's a special election, then the county chairs with weighted vote would then designate who would be the Republican candidate, and the Democrats would do the same. I don't know what the Democrats would gain by that, and the point is, from Pelosi's point of view and the national Democrats, why would you go out of your way to fill a Republican seat? Because the district is heavily Republican. On the other hand, there has been talk that Kathy Hochul, who's a lieutenant governor and from Erie County, and a very able campaigner, might step forward and take the Democrat nomination up there, and at this point she might be able to pick up that congressional seat. On the other hand, again, if Governor Cuomo is thinking of running for the presidency, Kathy Hochul might not be at all interested in stepping down from the lieutenant governor spot at this point. So at this point, I'd say the governor's calling a special election is probably unlikely. So that opens it up then to a wide open primary for the Republican-Democrat nomination in that district. And as you know, we've already have 2 Republican state senators who've declared that they would like that seat. And then there's this fellow Bellavia who just was just awarded the Medal of Honor, and apparently has a popular radio program up in that area. I think he's originally from Batavia or Warsaw. Yeah. But apparently fairly popular and well known. I do have some of his early campaign literature because he made an effort some time ago to run for that seat, and it was kind of interesting because in the literature, all of the T's in his literature are little Christian crosses. They're not just T's, alphabetical T's. They're little Christian crosses, which indicates, I guess, that the guy is strongly religious, evangelistic. I'm not sure. So I would guess he'd pull that group in pretty strongly. But so it's very difficult to tell how that will play out. I mean, if I'm a state senator, I might think, well, the chances of pulling this off are not that great. Maybe I'll just stay in the state Senate. On the other hand, why would you stay in the state Senate there when there are only 20 or 23 state Republican senators left? You're going to be consigned to a minority position very likely in any case. You might be better off taking a shot at getting the nomination for this congressional seat. So there's so many considerations bouncing around on this that it's going to take quite a while for all this to work its way out. And, of course, the new Republican state chairman is Mr. Langworthy, who is the former county chair of Erie County Republicans, and obviously he's going to have a say in how this goes. Whether he'll be able to control it or not, I don't know. But
can we get back to Kathy Hochul for a second?
Sure.
Okay. What you said kind of interested me about the possibility of Governor Cuomo running for president and then Kathy Hochul going into the governor's seat,
right.
Or Kathy Hochul, maybe if that doesn't happen with Cuomo, Kathy Hochul running for the Chris Collins seat in the House.
Right.
What kind of representative do you think she'd be like, and what kind of governor do you think she'd be like?
I think she's been hasn't she held that seat for a brief period already?
Yeah, that's true. But but after everything that's happened with the squad and all the new legislation coming out of Albany, what do you think she'd be like?
I think she'd be pretty good, actually, but I don't think she can win it. I mean, I don't think she can win the Democratic gubernatorial nomination in this state. That's her problem.
Why not?
Well, because of the squad, as you say, and down, which has a lot of influence in Long Island and the city, and that's where the people are. So to try to be halfway moderate in that situation, and I just think it's very difficult. And Cuomo's able to do it because he's built up quite a war chest, and he's got contacts and
he's from New York City.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Cuomo
good
name.
Point, right? And so that makes it easier for him. But for Hochul, that would be a very tough sell. So, but I think as a governor, and let's say he goes ahead, resigns, and runs for the presidency, or even becomes president, then she would step forward to fill that spot, and I think she'd be reasonably capable. But to actually win the nomination on her own, that would be a much tougher haul. So, talking in those terms, Brian, coming back and running for that congressional seat at this point, maybe there's a window there for her.
Yeah, that's what I got thinking too.
Yeah.
We're down to a couple of minutes with Dr. Robert A. Heineman. Senator Bernie Sanders and his health problems. Elizabeth Warren in the lead in a lot of polls. Will Bernie step out, do you think?
Well, I don't think he's... Yeah, I think he's not going to want to. But this latest event with the stents and his cardiac issues, I mean, and people keep pointing out he's 78 years old, etc. I think it's just going to begin to drift more and more away from him. And I would assume the people he picks up will be primarily Warren supporters, or people who would move toward Warren. I don't think they're going to move toward Biden. So that would only strengthen Warren's position. That would be my view on that. And I don't think that's unhealthy may be the wrong word to use in this situation, but it's not unwise or unreasonable for people to think in those terms. And I do think this whole impeachment effort and the discussion of Hunter Biden and some of these people, and I think more stuff will be coming out on Hunter Biden, is just going to make it more and more difficult for Biden to hang in there. So in terms of a moderate candidate for the presidency there, I think Mr. Cuomo is looking better and better there.
In the last, we'll go an extra 60 seconds. Governor Andrew Cuomo's voter registration rule change. Can you explain that?
Yes, I think it's important to note that I think he just signed that recently, and that is previously, if you change your party registration, it didn't go into effect till after the next general election. Now that has changed. If you change your party registration before February 14th, which I believe is Valentine's Day, it goes into effect immediately. If you change your party registration after February 14th, it goes into effect after the June primary. So people who want to switch parties can do that much quicker and more easily with this new legislation. And I don't know, you can look at it several different ways, but you should at least be aware of that.
All righty, Dr. Bob, we got to go. Thank you so much for coming in.
Well, perhaps we could do this again sometime, Brian.
All righty.